All right, guys, we are back at it with some pretty big news. And, this happened for, whenever I was doing the Iron Maiden album review series, we got, the Iron Maiden album announced. And then, of course, it ended up coming out in the midst of that, so I got the review included on. Now, this isn't the case for Black Sabbath right now, but today there was a Tony Iommi solo release. I think it was called, gosh, what was it? Dark Scent or something like that. It was called, or Evil Scent, something like that. But it was, man, it was just an instrumental track, and the dude still got it. I'm hoping we see a full album from Tony, or even if maybe this is a tease, and maybe getting back with Sabbath, or do it, just anything that Tony does or wants to do. Please do it and release an album, because we all want it. But yeah, so that was super cool. Also, we're kind of looking like the old classic look from my old room up in here. Got a hand-me-down recliner right here, so we're looking like that instead of my old wooden chair I've been squeaking on. And so at some points of the video I can hear it kind of moving whenever I'm moving. But but anyways, today we are looking at, of course, the final album of the 1970s Black Sabbath catalog and the final Ozzy era, at least for this first time. His first run with the band. He wouldn't join back again until 1999 for a couple of tracks and a live reunion tour. Then, of course, way later on in 2013 for a whole album and a couple bonus tracks in the EP. But so what's the last we're going to see for Ozzy for a bit in this band? But man, we're talking about Never Say Die. Again, much like Technical Ecstasy, kind of a controversial album in their discography. And that's really due to, oh, my phone's falling. There we go. We got it. There we go. Don't need that slipping. All right. But, yeah, definitely a controversial album in their discography. It's mainly due to kind of the tone being different, yet again, from like your, doomy and heavier Sabbath stuff. And pretty much the same kind of controversial elements that Technical Ecstasy had. This one kind of had. Songwriting was kind of different. And we started off with the title track, Never Say Die. And man, this whole album overall, and this track in particular, sounds just like, even production-wise, it's a little bit softer production-wise, just like Ozzy's solo album, Blizzard of Oz. And, the band was in, like we've kind of been talking about, kind of their history and stuff. I mean, they were in absolute shambles at this point. Ozzy was kicked out at one point, or talked about, possibly quitting. Would join back in for this album, and, it was just getting out of hand. So they ended up kicking him out after this. But that's why kind of there's just different tones on like different types of songwriting, pretty much all over the thing, just like Technical Ecstasy. But anyways, yeah, the title track is, the epitome of this. It just sounds a lot like something you'd hear off Blizzard of Oz. I really dig it. I think it's really cool, kind of fast-paced, kind of more upbeat Sabbath song. Not as far as like rhythmly fast, but more of like a, more of a feel-good song than, let's say you would, hear in like Children of the Grave or Paranoid, something like that. So it's kind of more of a feel-good song, but I really dig it. I think it's cool. It's not my favorite off the album, but I do think it's definitely a standout. And then we move on to, oh, I forgot. This is one of those situations where the tracks listed on the album are not in the correct order. So hang tight here. We're going to pull the actual record itself out and read them off. I almost forgot about that. Get that right there. Alright. Sorry guys, forgot to kind of prepare that part. But anyways, I'll put this back in the sleeve here. Kind of a beat up copy I got here, but hey, it was, it was like 20 bucks, so, and the record plays great. So, no complaints here. But anyways, yeah. So we got that. Then of course, the next track, Johnny Blade, definite big standout for me. Really, really cool song. I absolutely love this one. And, again, this is a very unique and standout album. This track, it's got some kind of proggy elements to it. Totally, different kind of tone going on here. Johnny Blade's a really awesome song. It's got some pretty wacky time changes. I love the ending of it. Man, you know, like, you know, Johnny's a spider, that whole melody they got going on there. It's just some classic kind of Ozzy sounding stuff. Ozzy's voice is in, you know, like peak form here, like just top-notch stuff still at this time. And it's kind of has been ever since, you know, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath going forward here has been just top quality stuff. Not to say his stuff on the early ones weren't, you know, great vocal stuff, but he just, you know, he was on a whole nother stride from Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath and onward up, you know. But anyways, yeah. Johnny Blade, just a great freaking song. One of my favorites off here, actually. Then we get to the third track on this loaded side one. We're talking about Junior's Eyes. And this is the first track you really prominently hear, like, piano and, like, it kind of, like, trickling down like raindrops in a way. And, man, I love it. I think Junior's Eyes is another just incredible track off here. Another total standout for me. And one of my favorites off this album. The piano is really cool. The chorus is hooky. You know, we're getting, you know, like I said, and it's been, you know, it's been talked about several times by many people over the years. It doesn't sound like a traditional Sabbath album, but, you know, you got 3 great songs in a row. And the fourth one might just be, I mean, it's right behind being my favorite off here. Of course, we're talking about A Hard Road. And, man, I absolutely dig this song. Like, that's like that's one of the melodies that's so damn hooky. You'll get it stuck in your head. It's got a fun little groove to it. Really cool lyrics. And it kind of, you know, it's kind of chronicling the band's, you know, struggle in a way. You know, it kind of makes you think back to, like, man, especially going through these in order again, thinking back to the first album, it's like, man, it has probably been a hard road for these guys. And it was, according to them, throughout all this time they've been together. But yeah, it's a hard road, or sorry, a hard road. One of my favorites off here, like top 2 of my favorites up there. There's just one that beats it out. But we'll get on to there. You know, that's 4 just awesome tracks on side 1. And then we go to side 2, kind of opens up with, it opens up with Shockwave, which is decent. Not super memorable on here. Kind of a filler track, but not one that's like, again, like filler tracks and bad tracks, totally different thing. Bad track is something that, like, oh, it stands out, but it's for a bad reason. Filler track is like, oh, you know, it's okay. It's a good song, but, like, it doesn't, you know, it's kind of not as memorable as maybe some of the others on here. Then we go to my favorite, for sure, off here. And just like one of my comments said when we were talking about Technical Ecstasy and kind of talked a little bit about this thing, Air Dance. And the comment said, that song is a masterpiece. I'm in total agreement. That is a beautiful song. You hear more of that piano going on in here. Kind of a jazzy vibe. Really, really cool guitar tone on here. Just incredible, you know, some time changes going on here. Pretty proggy stuff. Absolutely love Air Dance. And, you know, it's such like a flowy song that is, you know, and that piano has a big, you know, that's a big aspect of that makes that be that way. And same with, you know, the drumming too of Bill Ward, which is very upfront on this album overall. But in that song in particular, it just really gets the vibe of it and just kind of flowing with these kind of odd, you know, drum time signatures and such. So Air Dance, I agree with the comment on my Technical Ecstasy video that it is a masterpiece of a song. It's one of my favorites, you know, especially the 70s era of Sabbath, you know, and one of my favorite, you know, vocal works of Ozzy, period, including his solo stuff. I think it's such a pretty song, but, like, intricate at the same time. Not too commercial sounding or too plain. So, yeah, Air Dance, incredible. Then we get another solid one, Over to You. I dig that one, too. That's another really, really cool track. I wouldn't maybe, you know, rate it up there as far as a Hard Road or Air Dance and maybe Junior's Eyes and some of those, but damn solid song. I totally dig it. Then we get to this really weird kind of interlude here, Breakout, which is like really, really jazzy. You get like saxophone stuff, some really cool, again, time signature changes and stuff, or drum patterns from Bill Ward that are pretty interesting. It's a whole instrumental, just jazzy goodness that leads right in to the final track off here, Swinging the Chain, which Bill Ward, he kills it on vocals again. You know, I think they maybe should have let him do vocal work more often on Sabbath albums. Maybe at least, you know, kind of play the role of Peter Criss, you know, like in Kiss, who would sing a couple songs on Kiss albums. You know, they tried it with on Technical Ecstasy, and it turned out to be one of the best songs in the album. I wouldn't say Swingin' the Chains is one of my favorites off the album, but damn, it's a hell of a closer. And it is a standout track on here for sure, because, hey, you got Bill Ward singing on it, so it totally is different, and it also has kind of that jazzy vibe to it. But, yeah, hell of a way to, you know, I think, a lot of people think these guys went off on a bad note with Ozzy with this album. I totally disagree. I think they went out on a different note. You know, they didn't go out being boring and doing their, you know, their stereotypical thing. These guys were experimenting all throughout the 70s run here. And, you know, each album is very different from the next. And that's one of the coolest things about not only their 70s stuff, but their discography in whole. They're all so different. Each have their own identity. And we really, you know, as we travel along through their 70s stuff here, it's pretty clear. Like, if you listen to this album and the self-titled debut record, I mean, man, it sounds like a totally different band, you know, at points. But, you know, just a great album. You know, I ain't afraid to say it. I know, again, I have heard some love for this album kind of in recent years, but a lot of people are just like, it's just, Sabbath was, you know, at the tail end there with Ozzy, and it didn't go out on a good note. But, you know, I disagree, but I totally get it. And, you know, maybe, I dug this thing on the first listen. Unlike when I was talking about Technical Ecstasy, where I did like it on my first listen, I didn't really go back to it as much. Maybe listen to it 2 or 3 more times before, of course, covering it again here. But on this, I've gone back to this thing several times over the years, and I've always just really appreciated this cool, artsy, and different direction album, and the closing album for the 70s for Black Sabbath. But yeah, guys, next time, of course, we get a change in lineup, our first change in lineup of many to come in this band. And we're talking about Ronnie James Dio himself, of course, getting out of Rainbow, and his band Rainbow, or really Richie Blackmore's band Rainbow, and joining Black Sabbath in the gang on their first album, came out in 1980, Heaven and Hell. And I want to go ahead and clarify, too, that I know Heaven and Hell, like, Dio got back with the guys, again, like his Mob Rules lineup in particular, later on, like 2009, to make an album. But I'm not going to count that because it's not technically listed under the Black Sabbath names. But so that'll be a whole different review, and it won't be included in the rankings for these. But I just wanted to clarify that. But yeah, next time, Dio's hopping on board here as the front line here, the, you know, lead singer, incredibly powerful voice, so it totally makes a different sound for the band. Super hyped to dive back into Heaven and Hell. So stay tuned for that, guys. And again, like, comment, subscribe. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on this. We've been having some really cool conversations down in the comments below. So let's keep that up. Thanks, guys.